I think Kamala Harris, instead of running for president, should be running an apology tour. And I think that the Trump campaign should be demanding an apology. She keeps trying to throw out new ideas, and they're falling flat everywhere. And the actual damage that she and Joe Biden have done to the economy is something they should be held accountable for. I want to play you this exchange on CNBC because, Joe Kernen is pretty financially conservative, but Becky Quick is not, and neither of them have room for Kamala Harris's economic spokesman on TV just making stuff up.
Well, unrealized gains, taxing unrealized gains just doesn't seem fair in any sense of the word. In the very best sense, if you are taxing unrealized gains, all you're doing is pulling forward the taxes that would be paid later when someone actually sells the stock.
I think that this reaction to unrealized gains is a little funny, given that I bet that the majority of people watching right now are already paying a tax on unrealized gains. It's called a property tax. When the value of your home goes up,
it's a use tax.
When the value of your home goes up, you pay higher taxes even if you don't sell your home.
Your value of your home never moves the way a stock moves, the way something else moves.
That's always the go-to answer.
It's also, property tax is a use tax. You're paying for the schools, you're paying for emergency services. Those are things that make absolute sense.
And sure, and all the revenue that comes in from these unrealized gains taxes and the other taxes in the Harris plan are going to go to creating what she calls more opportunity. It's to make sure that every newborn born in this country gets $6,000.
Using the services.
Well, look, you're arguing that this is some sort of foreign concept that's completely unknown in the U.S. tax code.
It's probably unconstitutional. It's probably, and it was never in anyone's intent to tax.
It's not an income tax.
And property is real property. Real property taxation goes to, as Becky Quick points out, a use tax. The federal government doesn't tax real property. Your state and local government tax real property, and it funds the local fire department and the local trash collection and the local school. It's the fact that the Harris people don't even want to acknowledge it is part of the problem here. They've never wanted to acknowledge a single problem. How is it playing out? How is it playing out for Americans, this Biden-Harris administration economy? This is Brianna Keeler on CNN.
A just-released housing index reveals just how rough the market is, especially for first-time home buyers. It showed home prices for the nation's top 20 metro areas rose 5.4% from June of last year to June of this year, a record jump for that month. And renters, not just home buyers, are feeling a serious squeeze, especially in New York. Moody's found New Yorkers dedicated a whopping 58% of their income toward rent, compared to 27% nationwide.
That's the Biden-Harris economy. The Wall Street Journal has a headline today. It's their top story today. The American dream feels out of reach for most. A Wall Street Journal poll shows people want a home, a family, and a comfortable retirement, but say those goals are tough to achieve even with hard work. And they are in the Biden-Harris economy. Again, they were told before their COVID stimulus package by progressive economists, you would spark inflation for the first time in this country since the 1970s. They mocked the economists, including Larry Summers. They did it. Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote for it, and we got the inflation the progressive economists warned. And how's it playing out? This is a voter in Virginia.
Groceries that used to cost me $200 a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I'm spending $500 at the grocery store right now. That's going to be my biggest deciding factor. Give me your answers. What are your solutions? Because I don't want promises and broken promises.
Don't want promises. Don't want broken promises. Here's another one.
Greg, we got this big graph of inflation in the country compared under Biden and Harris, and then Trump and Pence. So I guess the big question is, what was life for you under Donald Trump compared to now?
A whole different ballgame. Like I said, the intention was always to work because I wanted to, just work 20, 30 hours a week, stay busy, stay active, have a couple extra bucks in my pocket. Now it's basically just to survive. Our household expenses over the last 4 years have increased anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month. And that's as a result of everything I just stated. Groceries, car insurance has gone up $200 to $300 a month in the last 4 years. And it's not just because we live in Florida. You can check. They tell you the same thing. It's inflation. Any given month, any given week, if we have stuff going on, the grocery bills are outrageous.
That's a guy in Florida. Here's a 74-year-old intern.
A paid internship at 74 years old is the plot of a Hollywood movie, but the stark reality for Barry, who is their star intern here at Career Source Ballard, helping others find employment.
When you tell your friends you're an intern, what do they say?
Are you crazy? You're supposed to be retired. And I have 3 different retirements, and it's not enough. I can't afford to eat. Can't afford to pay my utilities. I'm barely making my condo payment.
Man is 74 years old, has 3 retirements, and still had to go back to work. Here's a voter in Virginia.
We found Ricky Gaines waiting for his takeout order.
What do you look for when you're looking for a leader or somebody to vote for?
Someone that's fair, someone that's consistent.
This Army veteran says he's now worried about safety here at home.
I think crime, that kind of keeps me up at night. The drugs, the crime, we've got to police that up.
That's a voter in Virginia. You've heard people in Florida, people across the country. And here's Christina Romans on MSNBC talking about the state of the economy.
Anticipated that rates will be cut in September, but of course we don't exactly know how much or precisely when. You mentioned mortgage rates falling. Let's talk about housing, which for so many Americans, particularly Americans just starting off trying to buy their first house, it's become impossible because it's so expensive and because there's simply not enough stock. Vice President Harris has put forth a new housing plan. Give us your analysis.
So the housing market has really been where the bulk of those rate increases has just frozen it. Also, you just don't have enough supply. So young people, first-time home buyers really just don't have a leg in here. In most zip codes, the typical earner can't afford the typically priced home. That's a real problem. You've heard from the Biden administration or from the Kamala Harris campaign what she would like to do: incentivize building more homes, moderately priced homes, also incentivizing people to help pay for them. I think when mortgage rates start to decline, we'll get a better sense of how things are going to thaw a little bit here. We've already seen mortgage refinancing improving among people who bought homes in the last couple of years as they're trying to refinance. But will there be a better chance to get into this housing market? Record high home prices yesterday, the Case-Shiller number. I mean, some neighborhoods, especially around here, in Connecticut, on the West Coast, around Chicago, just unattainable home prices. That's
unobtainable home prices. 12 years ago, from the Wall Street Journal, when researchers at Public Religion Research Institute asked 2,501 people if the American dream still holds true, more than half said it did. When the Wall Street Journal asked the same question in July, the number dropped to about a third of respondents. By many measures, economists say people are right to feel their shot at success has diminished. Key aspects of the American dream seem out of reach in a way that they were not in past generations, says Emerson Sprick, an economist of the D.C. think tank Bipartisan Policy Center. Sprick points to the continued decline of private sector pensions leading to their near disappearance, the surge in the cost of home ownership as 2 of the biggest economic changes over the past number of decades. It's not just that. The Biden-Harris administration sparked massive inflation, driving up the cost of borrowing, driving up the cost for home ownership. People who are able to get in at very low rates locked in refinancing, and there are people who are stuck in their houses now. I dare say my wife and I are kind of stuck in our house right now. We have a ridiculously low interest rate on our home. We've had a number of offers to buy our house at a very inflated price from what I even think it's worth. There's nowhere for us to move. Americans across the country are in this situation. The Biden administration added a bunch of regulations on land usage and water usage and costs for making lumber and for shingles on houses and electrical requirements and efficiency requirements. Even on your HVAC system, they've driven up the costs of basic home ownership. The regulations of the Biden administration, the inflation caused by the Biden administration. Instead of running for president, Kamala Harris should be running around the country telling people she's sorry for what they did. This is the Biden-Harris administration. It's not the Biden administration. She is in charge, just like Joe Biden. They did this. They were warned by economists what their spending package would do, exactly what those economists warned came about. You can say it's a global problem. It's a global problem. You know what? I'm not a citizen of the United Kingdom of Europe or China. I'm a citizen of the United States. And what I know is that Democratic progressive economists told the Biden administration that if you do this COVID stimulus plan, you will get inflation like we haven't seen since the 1970s. We got exactly that. And then they said it was transient. It's transient. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. 3.5 years later, it's finally starting to go down. It's still going up just at a slower rate. They're like, see, we told you it was temporary. Where is my apology from Kamala Harris? In fact, the Trump team, if they were smart, they'd be running around the country demanding she apologize. She's running ads about how she wants to make homeownership affordable. She should run ads acknowledging it's her policies from the Biden-Harris administration that made homeownership unaffordable. We got crime problems in this country, gang problems. We've got drug problems. We've got a fentanyl crisis. We've got a border problem. All of these happened on her watch. It is inexcusable to me that the Trump campaign can't stay on this message. The media absolutely is doing everything they can to cover for Kamala Harris, including the fact that they're trying to claim that somehow she is not tied to the Biden administration. She can be her own person. No, she cannot be when the website says Biden-Harris administration. And again, anyone who says that should be bludgeoned metaphorically by the Trump campaign for carrying water for Kamala Harris. It is not true. She needs to own the current record. There's a reason in 188 years, only one person who is vice president of the United States got elected to the presidency. The odds should be against Kamala Harris, even with the media on her side. And the Trump campaign needs to pick a message and stay on message and hammer that point. And Kamala Harris must be held to account for wrecking the economy.